This is one of the worst cases Gibson has ever used, but someone finally found a good use for it. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. This was listed in North Carolina's Facebook Marketplace as a Gibson coffee table. Their description, one of a kind. Essentially what has happened here is this is a Gibson Sonex case. I know, they look cool, but trust me, they're heavy boat anchors due to being a real wooden case, and they have very minimal support. I mean, look at this. We only have one neck rest. And that's just how the majority of these things are. It was very common for people to strip them away from the original instrument, because I remember the first time I saw this thing too. I really wanted one until I got it, and then I wasn't as in love with it. Now, I know I'm being hard on them. The one thing that they do have going for them is they can also fit the Gibson Victory series. But turning one of these things into a coffee table actually makes a whole lot of sense and gives it a whole new life. Because look at it. They just added a couple of metal legs to the underside and just put it by their couch. And if you're curious what these records are about in here, these are custom-made coasters that you can use for the top so you don't ruin your Tolex. But the idea of this being a table is really fascinating to me because A, it's a rectangular case. It doesn't look out of place, but B, it can double as storage for small items or even another guitar. So maybe next time you see one of these for $100 or so, get yourself a fancy new table. There is one caveat though that I want you to be aware of. There were two versions of this case, and while both of them are quite clunky, there is one that you might want to save, and it's this version. The version that has the double neck rest and the interior pocket. That one actually is worth keeping around as a legitimate case, or modify your existing one that only has the single neck rest into the double. And in case you're trying to scratch your head, where does that Gibson Guitar Company logo come from? It's on the Sonex. That is their whole new label that they designed for that specific series of instruments. You can learn more about them in this episode right here, as they were actually initially going to have it be Sonex by Gibson, as we documented on this iteration. But now we've got to talk about this SG. It's on Reverb for 5500. It's labeled as a 66 through 69, but it's purple? Very nice. Now, the closer and closer we get to this photo, the quicker it becomes apparent that this is maybe not the highest quality refinish work ever, but a late 60s SG in purple? Pretty sweet. And at first I was going to say, hey, that's an SG special. It's got the P90 pickups and wrap tailpiece. But do you guys happen to see what's wrong there? Why are these single coils so much wider than usual? Stock, they'll look like this, a little bit more elongated and rectangular. Whereas coming back over here, don't these seem like twice as large as they should be? What this looks like to me is somebody might have actually taken a dog ear P90 cover and hid it underneath the pick guard. Either that or they just chopped it off. Because as you can see here, those have a little bit more of a profile to them rather than the soap bar style that just covers over the top of the bobbin. In fact, looking closer, I swear I can vaguely see the outline of the dog ear, but who knows? We've obviously got some stuff going on there. But now let's look at the rest of the neck. We've got the dot inlays with a rosewood fretboard, kind of interesting wood grain pattern there, or something spilled on it. But then, oh my. It appears this was definitely someone's project here because the headstock should not be looking like that. It should look something like this. Very small profile tuners, and the Gibson logo will actually be mother of pearl. Whereas over here, we can see it's been reamed out for modern style Clusons. Not the end of the world, good to know about. We've got a newer style truss rod cover on it. The nut's been redone, and we've got binding added along the edge. It's either that or they just added some paint, but we have a mysterious Gibson decal instead of mother of pearl. So perhaps this started life as a junior and had some modifications, or maybe it's a whole new headstock. We'll have to keep going to find out. The good news is it appears to be authentic. It's got the correct style truss rod in there, seems to have some life left. But our next photo shows us, yeah, definitely not the highest quality refinish work, but it looks great from afar. But after experiencing it on that DC, I'm always going to be looking closely at how these lightning bars are notched. As the way the seller currently has it, that is not a very good alignment on our neck. We're a little bit too far over. We need to move all those strings just a tad. But it looks like all the strings are within the slot, so you might need to put those in a new space. But here we go, back at the headstock time. Yeah, that is not the Gibson font for its serial numbers. This has a history. And the entire back is painted black. What's a great way to hide previous repairs? Solid color finish. What are late SGs known for doing? Cracking at the heel. It does have that really obnoxiously long heel joint though, so I still believe this to be authentic late 60s. But our next photo shows us someone has beautifully wired that thing up with bumblebee capacitors, CTS 500K. I don't think you could ask for better wiring than that. But now we've got an outside photo shot, and then I can tell this is a man of class and standards. If you ever refinish a guitar, get this photo, because you'll get people like me who will talk about your guitar and potential buyers that go, hey, I don't know what's hiding under that finish. You can't prove it either way unless you take the finish off again. This is the proof that you need. We can see it did not have an original serial number, and as far as whether it was repaired or not, I'll have to read the description because I swear I see something right here, but that could just be weird grain fill stuff. But we can see we've got the original tuner holes filled in right here. Then we've got our Kluson ones. It's been reamed out, and then it's like they installed one upside down, then you got your regular Schaller there. That's the only one that confuses me. But oh, if that's not even enough, you can tell by these barb areas right here within the wood that it had Grovers on at one point in time too. That's probably what that one is. And sweet, we even have a photo of the body before it was finished. Okay. Looks like it might have had maybe a trem system, something else at one point. But someone has moved the toggle switch, filled that in, re-drilled it. Looks like maybe similar stuff going on there. This seller has a great way of showing us everything. We even have this. I was hoping we'd be like, yeah, now I can see it, but no, those routes look fairly good. The only thing that obviously has had some attention is up and over here. But now we're seeing the filled in holes for the Vibrola tailpiece. I'm really not sure what those ones would have been about. But ouch! We were missing some binding and a whole bunch of other stuff. I can see why they just took this on as a full project. But speaking of the headstock, now that I look closely, I think this was added. Now keep in mind, I don't have a lot of experience with late 60s SGs, but just look at these two. They don't look the same. But that would certainly explain why our decal looks so good, but yet incorrect for the particular guitar. If it was a special, it was probably a junior, just one P90 to start. Which then that explains why they had to fill and re-drill in some areas back here, because they made a mistake when doing the additional routings. That was a fun little mystery. Now let's actually read the description and see what the seller says. It was sold to him as a Project 60s SG Junior, and he does believe the junior part, as do I. We can confirm the whole misalignment thing, and then he redid it to correct the orientations. And apparently he paints cars for a living, so he did the finish himself, and he wanted the grain to show. And here we go. I knew he was a smart man. That's how I would do it as well. Just leave it alone. And overall, I would say he did a good job disclosing pretty much everything that my experience even told me about it. I mean, look at this thing. He even said where he got all this stuff from. However, I don't know if I agree with that one. He might have got scammed buying that. That just looks like a complete modern part. And that's what's scary, buying things that are era correct to restore things. Let's just say there's a lot of mislisted parts on Reverb. But if you're interested in making him an offer, it's for $5,500 and it's bell-picked guitars. And lastly tonight, I wanted to share this freaky thing that showed up. Local pickup only in the Chicago area, a Cherry Sunburst V2. The V2 is one of my least favorite Gibson designs that has ever been done. I find them quite scarily ugly. It evolved the Flying V design by adding sculpted contours, not only on the side that you don't need, but the side that you also might appreciate it on when you play. And down here in between the legs too. But if you look closely, it's actually a sandwich body. It's got maple, walnut, maple, then another walnut and maple on the back. Typically speaking, you find these in natural finishes, but you can find them with the maple on the top or the walnut on top, and then the maple takes the stripes. The same thing happens on the neck. You can either have a primarily walnut neck or a primarily maple one. And they do have a cutaway down here where you can also see the laminations. So certainly cool in that regards, but the big thing about these guys are the pickups. These are called boomerangs, and I know they're kind of cool heart-shaped things, but they're single coils. So they have a really thin sound, and I think that's why this model just never really took off. In fact, the very last year of production, they gave up on those. And you can find them with just straight humbuckers. The easiest way to tell if that was factory or not is those no longer have the cutout. So now that we understand that, occasionally you would also find custom colors. Primarily speaking, when they're transparent, it's the maple layer on top. But cherry sunburst on one of these? I mean, I don't hate it as much as the other ones. In fact, it kind of works in a weird roundabout way. I've seen more of a transparent cherry one. I've also seen candy apple red. But something about it being slightly transparent I thought works, and I thought you guys might enjoy seeing this at the tail end of tonight's episode. But you get the stock brass nut. I was fully expecting flip-out winding tuners, but I'm not seeing them there. But it is Kalamazoo produced, looks like 1980. So that explains why we don't have the flip-outs on this one. If it was 1 year later, we might have gotten lucky. But I was really hoping we'd also have the burst on the back of the neck and the body, but unfortunately no such luck. But this one kind of offers the best of the both worlds. A unique finish, but you can still see the different layers of woods, and I love layered guitars like that. But this one is supposed to be really clean condition, and it's up on the chopping block from a well-known Flying V collector, who claims he's only ever seen 2 of these. But this one is near mint collectible, and he's wanting $6,850. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.